It's Miss Erin from Elements. Today we are going to read this book. It is called We Are the Gardeners by Joanna Gaines and Kids. It's illustrated by Juliana Swanee. I'm wondering if any of you friends have gardens that you've started at home. And I'm curious, do you have flowers in your garden or some vegetables, some herbs? I would love to know what you're growing in your garden. The back of this book, it says, our journey as gardeners started with one small potted plant, but things did not go as planned. Turns out, trying something new isn't always easy, but sometimes it's the hardest work that leads to the greatest reward. We Are the Gardeners, written by Joanna Gaines and Kids, illustrated by Juliana Swanee. We Are the Gardeners. That's a pretty official title, but we didn't start out this way. Just like our garden, we started small and grew from there. Some say that a garden just grows from seeds, but we think it grows from trying and failing and trying again. A garden is hard work, but so is most of the good, important stuff in life. Our family's garden story began with one small potted fern. Dad stumbled upon it at a hardware store when he ran inside for some supplies. He said it was just too cute to leave behind, and he thought it would make Mom smile. And it did. We chose a sunny windowsill for that pretty little fern. It seemed like a good, safe spot for him to grow. This was back when we were little kids, but we still remember visiting the plant each day to give him a drink, and sometimes we'd even whisper to him a bit. And then, plot twist. Out of nowhere, our fern died. Death by overhydration. That's just a fancy way of saying we gave him way too much water. Looking back, each of us must have watered him every day. That's a lot of water for a little plant. By mistake, we love that plant to death. Some people tell themselves they are no good at something after one small failure, but no chance were we going to give up that easily. So we checked out some books from the library, and we found out that ferns can be tricky and prefer to live in a shady spot. Apparently, a plant's leaves can communicate to us what they're needing. We also learned that most plants have good manners and like to sip, not gulp. Lesson learned. Dad got us a fresh fern, and with it came fresh hope. This time, we set the pot on our piano, way on the other side of the room, where the sun wouldn't give him so much attention. We made a watering schedule and took turns saying a lot of nice things to our little sprout of a plant. And fern number 2 lived and thrived and grew. And finally, Mom got him a little potted friend. And then another, and then 1 or 2 more. We noticed that talking to our plants actually helped them grow bigger and stronger. So we added some songs and jokes into the mix. Unlike when we overwatered, 0 plants died from us talking too much. Pretty soon, plants were taking over the house, and Dad said it was time to graduate to outdoor gardening. And maybe you can try talking to your plants too. Mom was excited about the new outdoor garden as we were, and she started talking about it with a dreamy look in her eyes. That's when Dad called a family meeting so we could come up with a real plan. We all gathered around the kitchen table and got to work dreaming, planning, and drawing things out. We knew we needed a sunny spot, a place where the plants could sunbathe for at least 6 hours a day. We'd be red as radishes if we did that, but plants just love it. And more than that, they need it. In the garden, there is no life without light. Dad always says that the foundation is the most important thing when it comes to building a house. A house can't be strong if it's built on something weak, and the same holds true in the garden. So, to make the foundation of our garden strong, we filled it with something called soil. Good soil, which includes a bunch of tiny living things called organisms, can grow things in it. That's pretty amazing when you stop and think about it. A whole hidden world of life is happening beneath our feet. Just because you can't see the good things with your eyes doesn't mean they're not there. And another cool thing about soil is that it feeds and strengthens the seeds we sow. And then, like a miracle, plants and flowers burst out of the ground. We also knew we needed our garden to get plenty of water. Rain is the very best thing for plants to drink, but it's hard to know when and if rain is coming. So a couple of other options to keep plants hydrated are to collect rain water or use a sprinkler or garden hose to get the job done. Once we had a location with plenty of sun, good soil, and a watering plan, we got right to work. First things first, seeds. The most fun part of planning out our garden was deciding what to plant. We started with foods we like to eat, like strawberries and tomatoes, and then we chose some pretty flowers to keep them company. The thing about seeds is that they're everyday miracles. Everything a plant will grow up to be is already hidden inside the seed. We chose flowers like zinnias, sunflowers, and cosmos so that pollinators would visit our garden. Butterflies, hummingbirds, and bees spread pollen around from flower to flower, encouraging even more things to bloom. We like knowing that little helpers are out there in nature working with us to help this garden grow. The bees must have put the word out that we had a pretty good thing going because, sure enough, all sorts of other critters started to arrive. We quickly found out that there were 3 types of bugs in our backyard: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the worst part. It was a pretty sad day when the aphids, pronounced aphids, arrived. They are some of the more well-known villains in the gardening world. They suck the life out of the plants. But then the ladybugs showed us to eat those peaky aphids for lunch. Ladybugs are for sure part of the hero camp, bravely protecting our plant friends from harm. And we've got to tell you something about earthworms. They're like the secret agents of the garden. Earthworms eat all of the dead things, like old roots and leaves, and turn them into life for the soil. Every time we found one, we would all high-five and celebrate. They aren't pretty, but who cares? They're awesome, and we love seeing them hard at work. Whenever you find worms, you should, if they're not in your garden already, you should pick them up and bring them on over to your garden. They will be so happy you placed them there. We realized pretty quickly that we needed to keep the weeds out. They are the true bullies of the garden. Sorry, Thistle. Weeds try to steal water, sunlight, and nutrients from our fruit and veggies, and it's our job to make sure those little rascals don't take over. If we ignore the garden for too long, the weeds run wild and hurt our beloved plants. It's so much easier to do just a little bit every day. We were officially gardeners and had a real-life garden to prove it. That garden became our pride and joy. Day in and day out, we tended to our plants, making sure they got plenty of sunlight and water. Every time a new plant sprouted up from the ground, our excitement grew right along with it. As time passed, our garden grew bigger, and so did our family. When our garden was finally in full bloom and growing tall, we'd run through the aisles and watch the butterflies flutter around us. But one day, as we were mid-skip, we noticed some trespassers helping themselves to lunch. And by lunch, We mean half of the garden. Animals may look cute and innocent, but some have a sneaky side. They can wipe out a garden in no time flat. The chickens ate the vegetables, the goats ate Mom's roses, and the bunnies weren't picky at all. They ate anything in sight. Saying goodbye to that many happy plants was even harder than throwing away our very first dead fern. We debated if we should just give up. Was it really worth to start over again? Then we remembered one very important detail. We are the gardeners. It was our responsibility not only to grow this garden, but to also protect it. So we put up a little fence to keep the animals out and got to work rebuilding our garden. It didn't take long to get our plants and flowers growing tall again. To this day, our very favorite days are when we get to gather the fruits of our labor. Mom loves to set the table with pretty flowers in every color you can imagine. We help her dream up recipes for the food we've grown. Sometimes when we see all of the beauty laid out, we can't believe our hands helped bring it to life, and it makes all the hard work worth it. It's what keeps us coming back day after day, season after season. We still keep a little fern on the piano to remind us of our small beginnings. Every time we water it, we are reminded not to give up when things don't work out the first time. Because the thing is, whether one potted fern dies or half of the garden is wiped out by little critters, every failure or setback teaches us something. Dad says that every hard thing we choose to do makes us braver for the next time. There are so many lessons waiting to be learned in a whole world of gardening ready to bloom. We are the gardeners, and you can be too. And that's the end. Thank you, friends, for listening to the story We Are the Gardeners. I thought of a great idea while reading that story. If you have a garden at home, you can go outside and you can sing to your plants. You can talk to your plants just like they do in the story. And you can draw pictures of your plants. Drawing pictures is a great way to document your plant's growth. You can draw pictures, maybe once a week try to draw a picture of what your plant is looking like that day. You can also take photos, take pictures with a camera of your plant and document the growth that way. You could take a picture of it today and wait a week and then take another picture. And then you can compare those two pictures and see how much your plant has grown. Thank you, friends, again for joining me. Happy gardening!